She sat across from me, eyes never leaving mine. Slowly, deliberately, she peeled off her socks, each movement charged with silent invitation. I couldn't look away as something stirred deep inside me, my breath catching with every revealed curve. Welcome to Goddess Foot Confessions. Let's uncover what really happened. The room was dim, softened by the amber glow of a single lamp. Outside, rain tapped gently on the window pane, a quiet rhythm that seemed to pulse with the stillness between us. She sat across from me on the worn leather chair, her gaze calm but steady, never breaking eye contact. The air felt thick, almost electric, as if something unspoken hung between us, waiting. Without a word, she slowly lifted one foot, inch by inch, pulling at the fabric of her sock. The movement was deliberate, patient, like a silent invitation. The cotton peeled down past her ankle, revealing skin that glowed softly in the muted light. I swallowed hard, my throat dry, as a subtle shift rippled through me. Her bare foot pressed against the cool floor, toes flexing lightly, tracing invisible patterns that only I could see. My eyes followed every motion, the curve of her arch, the gentle slope of her heel. I felt exposed, caught in a moment that felt larger than itself. The sound of the rain outside was drowned by the quickening beat of my own pulse. I couldn't tear my gaze away, even if I wanted to. She smiled, just barely, a secret held between us. Then, she reached for the other sock, peeling it down with the same slow, deliberate grace. Her feet, now fully bare, rested lightly on the floor, delicate and sure. It was more than just the act of removing socks. It was a wordless conversation, an invitation to see more, to feel more, to be closer. Something stirred inside me, a quiet ache of anticipation. I realized then how much I'd been waiting for this, waiting to be seen, to be drawn into this gentle dance of closeness and trust. The night stretched before us, full of promise and silent stories. And in that moment, all I wanted was to stay right there, lost in the quiet invitation she had given. The subtle warmth of the room embraced us, wrapping around her bare feet like a gentle caress. The faint hum of the rain outside had faded into the background, replaced by the quiet intimacy that filled the space between us. Her feet, delicate and unguarded now, rested softly on the cool wooden floor, a tender contrast that seemed to amplify every sensation. I noticed the way her toes curled slightly, as if testing the freedom of being uncovered after hours wrapped in fabric. The smooth skin gleamed faintly in the lamplight, the curve of her arches casting soft shadows that danced with the flickering flame from the candle nearby. It was a simple moment, yet charged with a kind of sacredness I hadn't expected to find. Sitting there, close but still careful to respect the fragile boundary between us, I felt my own skin awaken. The air seemed to grow warmer, thickening with unspoken desire. My gaze traced every line, every delicate movement, my breath catching as I took in the silent story her bare feet told. Her presence was magnetic, grounded yet ethereal, and the vulnerability of her bare skin invited a trust one was eager to honor. I wanted to reach out, to close the small distance and feel the softness beneath my fingertips, but hesitation held me back, an unspoken question hanging in the air. She caught my eyes lingering and smiled, a knowing curve of her lips that invited without rushing. The silence between us stretched, growing heavier, more meaningful. I could almost hear the quiet pulse of anticipation beating beneath the surface, a slow rhythm that echoed the rain's gentle song. In that warm, quiet space, the simple sight of bare skin became a language of its own, a delicate dance of closeness, trust, and awakening. And I knew, with a certainty that settled deep inside me, that this was only the beginning. The room grew quieter as the rain softened to a gentle patter, the world outside retreating from our shared space. Her eyes held mine, deep, steady, and unflinching, as if searching for something only I could offer. Words felt unnecessary. Our gazes spoke volumes in their place, weaving a language of silent understanding and slow-burning connection. I couldn't look away. In her eyes, I found both invitation and mystery, a promise folded into every glance. There was an unspoken tension, a fragile thread stretching taut between us, humming with the weight of emotions neither dared to voice aloud. Her pupils dilated just slightly, reflecting the soft glow of the lamp, and I felt a flutter rise in my chest. She shifted subtly, her bare feet brushing lightly against the floor, the skin glowing in the low light. It was as if every movement was a question, every look a beckoning. I felt drawn deeper into that quiet orbit, caught in the gravity of her gaze. The air between us thickened, charged with a tension that was at once tender and electric. For a moment, the world narrowed to just the two of us, the space where eyes met and hearts began to speak their own secret language. I was keenly aware of my own breath, shallow and steady, as if mirroring the unspoken rhythm that bound us. Her lips parted just slightly, a faint sigh escaping, and it felt like the first note of a melody that only we could hear. Time slowed, stretching into a delicate moment of suspended possibility. The silent conversation in her eyes held me captive, promising a journey that neither of us fully understood, yet both were eager to explore. In that gaze, I found the courage to lean in, to listen without words, to speak without sound. It was an intimacy that transcended language, a dance of souls beneath the surface. And as our eyes held fast, I knew the night was far from over. The quiet hum of the room wrapped around us, every sound muted except for the soft shuffle of her foot against the floor. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, her toes moved, bare and delicate, tracing a gentle path that seemed to reach out just enough to tease the space between us. I felt a shiver run through me, the sensation subtle yet electric, as if the brush itself whispered secrets meant only for me. Her gaze never wavered from mine, steady and curious, as though daring me to notice the silent language of her movement. My breath hitched involuntarily, heart tightening with the weight of the unspoken. That slight contact, the faintest touch of skin to skin, felt charged, as if it held the promise of something deeper waiting to unfold. I caught myself watching, entranced by the graceful arch of her foot, the delicate flex of her toes, curling and uncurling like a silent conversation. The vulnerability of the moment mingled with a quiet confidence she wore effortlessly, a contrast that drew me in like a moth to a soft, glowing flame. For a moment, it was as if time slowed, the world narrowing to just that subtle brush, the electricity in the air palpable. I could almost feel the warmth spreading from where her toes had grazed, a lingering echo that settled deep inside me. Her eyes sparkled with a hint of mischief, the smallest smile teasing at the corner of her lips. Was it deliberate, this delicate contact, or a graceful accident? The question hovered between us, unspoken yet undeniable, thickening the air with a tension that neither of us could or wanted to break. That fleeting touch, so light and so charged, became a silent invitation, a moment suspended in time where the ordinary transformed into something extraordinary. And in that instant, I knew the night was only just beginning. The quietness of the room seemed to hold its breath as the subtle scent of lavender drifted through the air, wrapping around us like a delicate veil. It was faint, barely there, but unmistakably hers, a soft fragrance that clung to the bare skin of her feet and lingered in the space between us. I inhaled deeply without thinking, drawn in by the gentle aroma that seemed to pull me closer. There was something intimate about scent, something that bypassed words and touched a deeper part of the senses. The lavender mixed with the warm, natural scent of her skin, clean, tender, and achingly human. It spoke of quiet mornings, of care and moments shared in stillness. I felt as if I could read her story written in the air, told in subtle notes that only someone paying close attention could hear. Her bare foot rested lightly on the floor, toes flexing slowly as if to emphasize the moment. I found my gaze drawn again to the smooth curves, the soft lines, the quiet strength beneath the vulnerability. The scent seemed to anchor me, connecting the invisible threads of closeness weaving through the room. She watched me watch her, eyes shining with a knowing warmth, and I felt a sudden boldness rise within me. Without hesitation, I reached out, fingertips hovering just above her skin, careful not to break the fragile spell. The space between us hummed with a tender electricity, a shared secret made visible only through these small, silent gestures. The lingering scent was a quiet reminder of this connection, an intimate echo that stayed with me even as the moments slipped away. It promised more than just closeness. It hinted at a depth of feeling growing quietly but surely beneath the surface. And in that soft, scented silence, I realized that every breath, every glance, every touch was a step further into something beautiful and unknown. The space between us was thinner now, charged with an energy that neither of us dared to name aloud. She shifted closer, the subtle movement folding the distance until it was barely there, a whisper of air and the faintest touch. I could feel her presence like a warmth spreading outward, drawing me into a quiet gravity I couldn't resist. Her bare foot brushed gently against mine, skin meeting skin in a moment that felt both accidental and intentional. The contact sent a ripple through me, a silent promise weaving itself into the stillness. My breath caught as our eyes met, a shared acknowledgement of the unspoken tension growing between us. We were close enough to hear the soft rhythm of each other's breathing, to catch the faintest scent mingling with the air, the subtle brush of her fingers as they rested near mine, the warmth radiating from her skin. These small details unfolded like a secret language, telling stories without words. The world outside seemed to fall away, leaving only the quiet intimacy of the moment. Every sense sharpened, attuned to the delicate dance of closeness and restraint. I was acutely aware of how close she was, close enough to feel the heat from her skin, to catch the lightest touch of her hair as it fell near my face. Her eyes held a quiet invitation, shimmering with a depth that spoke of trust and curiosity. In that small space, the boundaries between us blurred, replaced by a delicate connection that felt fragile yet undeniable. I wanted to reach out, to bridge the last inch between us, but hesitation held me still, a respect for the moment, a savoring of the slow build. The night stretched ahead, full of possibility, and in that close proximity, I found a quiet hope that this was just the beginning. The night's quiet hum wrapped around us like a gentle shroud, yet beneath that calm, a restless energy simmered. As we lingered in the small space between words, I found myself grappling with questions I dared not voice aloud. Her eyes held a depth that invited exploration, but the tension between us was woven with threads of hesitation and silent curiosity. I watched her breathe softly, the rise and fall of her chest a steady rhythm against the stillness. What was she thinking? Was she feeling the same pull I was? The unspoken questions pressed on me. What did this moment mean, and where could it lead? She glanced away briefly, the flicker of vulnerability betraying her composed exterior. Then her gaze returned, steady and searching, as if seeking answers in mine. The air thickened with possibility, every silence a conversation in itself, every glance a tentative step closer. I wanted to break the quiet, to ask the questions that danced on the edge of my mind. But something held me back, a respect for the delicate dance we were engaged in, the slow unfolding of trust. Instead, I let the questions hang in the air between us, unspoken but understood. Her fingers twitched near mine, a small, almost shy movement that spoke volumes. It was an invitation, or perhaps a challenge, a silent plea to explore the unknown without fear. In that moment, the weight of everything unasked was both heavy and exhilarating. The night promised so much, but the path forward remained a mystery, wrapped in the fragile beauty of what was still left unsaid. And so we sat, suspended in a breathless pause, the unspoken questions swirling around us like a gentle storm, waiting for the courage to be named. The soft glow of the lamp cast warm shadows across the room as she shifted slightly, offering her foot in a quiet gesture of trust. It was subtle, almost hesitant, but unmistakably an invitation. My fingers trembled ever so lightly as I reached out, my hand hovering just above her skin, afraid to break the fragile moment. When my palm finally met the smooth curve of her foot, a spark of warmth blossomed beneath my touch. She sighed softly, eyes closing for just a moment, as if surrendering to the comfort of connection. The tension between us softened, replaced by a tender intimacy that needed no words. I began to move my fingers slowly, tracing the gentle arch and the delicate contours, careful to match the rhythm of her breathing. Each stroke was an unspoken promise, a silent conversation through touch alone. The softness of her skin beneath my hands grounded me, reminding me of the closeness we shared. Her toes curled slightly in response, a subtle sign of relaxation and trust. I felt my heart race, caught between reverence and desire, aware of the sacredness in this simple act. The quiet moments stretched on, filled with the warmth of shared vulnerability. She opened her eyes and met my gaze, a small smile playing at the corners of her lips. In that look, I found reassurance and encouragement. The massage was no longer just a physical gesture. It had become a bridge between us, a gentle surrender that deepened our connection. Time seemed to slow as we remained entwined in this delicate dance, our breaths mingling in the quiet space. The world outside faded away, leaving only the warmth of her skin and the steady beat of my own heart. And in that moment, I understood that trust, once given, could transform even the simplest touch into something profoundly intimate. My fingers traced the delicate curve of her arch, each line and contour a subtle landscape of softness and strength. The warmth radiating from her skin was soothing, grounding me in the moment as if the world outside had faded to a distant memory. I couldn't help but marvel at how something so simple, a foot, bare and unguarded, could carry such a quiet power. The arch held a graceful elegance, the gentle rise and fall shaping a perfect balance between vulnerability and resilience. I felt drawn to it, mesmerized by its silent beauty. My touch grew more confident, but remained tender, careful not to disturb the fragile trust we'd built. She sighed softly, her eyes closing as if lost in a peaceful reverie. The connection between us deepened, conveyed not through words, but through every subtle movement, every gentle caress. It was a moment suspended in time, charged with a kind of reverence I hadn't anticipated. Her toes flexed slowly, and I caught my breath, their delicate motion stirring something deep inside me. The curve of her arch became a symbol of all the unspoken feelings weaving between us: anticipation, trust, and a quiet longing that neither dared to name aloud. In that silent exchange, I realized that intimacy was more than physical closeness. It was the delicate balance of presence and vulnerability, the courage to share small moments of openness. The curve of her arch was a quiet invitation, a secret held just beneath the surface, waiting to be explored. I lingered there, savoring the warmth and softness, feeling the gentle rhythm of her breathing in sync with my own. It was a moment of pure connection, a tender dance of closeness that spoke louder than any words ever could. The room felt charged with a delicate electricity as she leaned closer, her voice a soft whisper that barely stirred the quiet air between us. Each word was measured, gentle, as if afraid to break the fragile intimacy that had blossomed in the moments before. The sound of her breath mingled with mine, weaving a private conversation meant only for us. Her whispers carried a weight far beyond their volume, drawing me deeper into the space we shared. I listened intently, each syllable a thread pulling me closer to the unspoken emotions lurking beneath the surface. There was a vulnerability in her tone, a softness that invited trust and understanding. The scent of lavender lingered, blending with the warmth of her skin, creating a cocoon of calm that wrapped around us. My fingers still traced the curve of her foot, but now they seemed to echo the rhythm of her words. Slow, deliberate, tender. The connection between us felt palpable, woven from both sound and touch. She shared fragments of thoughts, half-expressed feelings that hovered just beyond full revelation. Her voice dipped and rose, carrying a melody that held me captive. In that moment, the silence wasn't empty. It was filled with meaning, a language of whispers and glances that spoke of closeness and desire. Her toes flexed lightly, mirroring the subtle tension in her words. I could feel my own breath quicken, heart pounding with the intensity of the shared secret. The space between us grew thinner, and I knew that this soft exchange was more than just conversation. It was a communion of souls. As her whispers faded into the stillness, I realized that sometimes the quietest words carried the loudest truths. And in that gentle exchange, we found a new layer of intimacy, fragile yet profound. Her toes flicked with a teasing rhythm, a delicate dance that held my gaze captive. Each small motion was deliberate, charged with a silent invitation I was powerless to resist. The subtle movement caught me off guard, stirring a quiet excitement that fluttered beneath my skin. I watched as her toes curled and flexed, a language of their own, soft, playful, and intimate. The flick was like a heartbeat, a steady pulse that echoed the growing tension between us. Her eyes locked with mine, sparkling with mischief and something deeper, something unspoken. That small gesture felt like a conversation without words, a gentle teasing that sent ripples through the space between us. I could sense the careful balance she maintained, holding back and drawing closer at the same time. The flick of her toes was both a question and an answer, a silent dare wrapped in softness. My breath hitched, and I felt a warmth spread through me, a response to her subtle playfulness. It was an invitation to stay present, to savor the moment and all its quiet promises. I wanted to reach out, to capture that fleeting motion, but I held back, letting the tension build, savoring every second. The room seemed to pulse with the rhythm of her toes, a private beat that belonged only to us. Time slowed, and the ordinary became charged with possibility. That flick, so slight yet so full of meaning, marked a turning point in our unspoken dialogue. And as her toes danced in the soft light, I knew the night was unfolding in ways I hadn't dared to imagine. Her foot brushed my thigh, a fleeting, almost imperceptible touch that sent a jolt of electricity through me. The moment was so brief, so delicate, I wasn't sure if it had been accidental or a deliberate tease. That uncertainty only deepened the tension hanging between us, thick and undeniable. I glanced up, catching the faintest hint of a smile playing on her lips. Her eyes met mine, steady and unflinching, as if daring me to acknowledge the contact. The silence that followed was heavy with meaning, every heartbeat loud in the stillness. The brush of her skin against mine lingered in my mind, a spark igniting something long dormant. Was this a test, a challenge, or simply the natural unfolding of closeness between us? I couldn't say, and that ambiguity only made it more intoxicating. My breath caught, and I shifted slightly, careful not to break the fragile moment. The air felt charged, every subtle movement amplified by the unspoken question hanging between us. Her foot rested lightly against my leg again, steady and sure. That touch, so light and tentative, became a silent language, one that spoke of desire, hesitation, and the thrill of crossing boundaries. It was the kind of moment that felt like both a beginning and a promise. I wanted to respond, to close the gap and explore the new territory opening before us, but I held back, savoring the suspense. The night was young, and the dance of accidental touches and lingering glances was only just beginning. After her foot brushed against my thigh, a silence settled between us that felt heavier than any words could carry. The room held its breath, the quiet stretching out like a taut thread ready to snap or hold us close. In that stillness, every glance, every breath became magnified, echoing the tension that pulsed beneath the surface. I found myself acutely aware of the space she occupied, the warmth radiating from her bare skin, the softness of her presence just inches away. Yet the silence was neither empty nor awkward. It was charged with meaning, a pause filled with unspoken desires and cautious hope. Her eyes searched mine, steady and searching, as if trying to read the thoughts I dared not voice. I met her gaze, the weight of the moment pressing down, grounding me in the here and now. It was as if the silence itself was a conversation, more profound than any spoken word could be. My fingers twitched, yearning to reach out, but restrained by the fragility of the moment. The quiet stretched on, a delicate balance of anticipation and restraint. I felt a pull to bridge the distance, to dissolve the tension with a single touch, but I held back, savoring the fragile thread that connected us. In that heavy silence, time seemed to slow, allowing me to drink in every detail. The curve of her smile, the way her breath caught softly, the gentle rise and fall of her chest. It was a silence that spoke volumes, a testament to the trust and vulnerability unfolding between us. And as the night deepened around us, the weight of that silence became a quiet promise, one that whispered of closeness, understanding, and the slow, tender unfolding of something real. The quiet intimacy of the night grew as my fingers traced the delicate contours of her foot, each movement careful and reverent. The coolness of her skin beneath my touch was both soothing and electrifying, a paradox that held me captive. Her toes flexed gently in response, a subtle language that spoke volumes without words. I felt the soft strength in the arch, the gentle pliancy of each joint, as if my hands were learning the secret rhythm of her body. The connection deepened with every stroke, a silent dialogue woven between fingertips and skin. It was a moment suspended in time, where the world outside ceased to exist. Her eyes closed briefly, a small sigh escaping as she surrendered to the tender exploration. The room seemed to pulse with a quiet energy, the flickering candlelight casting shadows that danced around us like silent witnesses to our closeness. Our breaths mingled, steady and slow, as if synchronized in this delicate dance of touch and feeling. I was aware of every heartbeat, every subtle shift, the fragile balance between desire and restraint. My fingers followed the curve of her toes, tracing invisible paths that spoke of trust and invitation. The connection was intimate yet innocent, a tender unfolding that promised more without demanding it. In the soft space between us, fingers and toes became a language of their own, a quiet celebration of presence and closeness. And as I held her foot gently, I realized that sometimes the simplest touches carry the deepest meaning. As my fingers continued their gentle exploration, she relaxed visibly, allowing the walls she usually held up to soften and fall away. Her bare foot, resting lightly in my hands, became more than just a touch. It was a revelation of trust, a quiet unveiling of vulnerability. She shared stories softly, her voice barely above a whisper, of times when she felt exposed or uncertain. Each word was like a gentle thread weaving us closer, connecting the physical intimacy to the emotional depths beneath. The marks and faint scars on her feet became symbols of resilience, reminders of battles fought silently and strength born from fragility. I listened with reverence, feeling honored to be entrusted with these glimpses into her hidden world. The room seemed to shrink, enclosing us in a safe haven where defenses could fall away and true connection could blossom. Her eyes glistened with honesty, reflecting the candlelight and something deeper. Hope, perhaps, or the relief of being seen fully. The tenderness in her voice carried a power I hadn't expected, a rawness that made the moment feel sacred. My touch grew softer, more attuned to the emotions flowing beneath the surface. The vulnerability she revealed was mirrored in my own openness, a shared space where strength and softness intertwined. In that delicate balance, I realized intimacy was not just about closeness, but about courage, the courage to show one's true self, to be held and accepted without judgment. And as the night deepened around us, that unveiling became the foundation for a connection far richer than I had imagined. The quiet warmth that spread through the room wasn't just from the soft glow of the lamp or the steady flicker of candlelight. It blossomed in the space between us, alive in the gentle pressure of my hands on her skin. Each touch was a quiet conversation, a tender exchange that transcended words. Her breath deepened as my fingers traced the delicate lines of her foot, the warmth of her skin seeping into mine like a soothing balm. The room seemed to pulse with the rhythm of our connection, soft, steady, intimate. It was a warmth that comforted, healed, and stirred something more profound. She shifted slightly, a soft sigh escaping her lips, and I felt a surge of gratitude for this moment. Fragile, precious, and real. The simple act of touch had become a bridge, drawing us closer across the invisible distance that had once separated us. I was acutely aware of every sensation, the softness beneath my fingertips, the gentle rise and fall of her chest, the quiet intimacy that filled the room like a tender embrace. It was a warmth that promised safety and belonging, a place where vulnerability was met with care. Our eyes met again, and in that gaze, I found a reflection of the same yearning and trust that blossomed in my heart. The warmth between us grew, a silent flame that flickered but never dimmed. In that gentle touch, I understood the power of presence, the way simple connection could become an anchor in a world of uncertainty. And as the night unfolded around us, the warmth of our shared moment became a promise, one that held the quiet strength of something just beginning. She moved with a grace that seemed effortless, each step barefoot across the soft carpet a quiet declaration of confidence. There was something undeniably powerful in the way she carried herself, unapologetically open, unguarded, yet utterly sure. Her feet, free and bare, spoke volumes about her comfort in this moment, in this space we shared. The gentle curve of her arches, the delicate spread of her toes, they were a testament to a strength born not from force, but from quiet assurance. Watching her, I felt a swell of admiration mingled with something deeper, a connection that transcended the physical. Her gaze met mine with that same calm certainty, inviting me to see her fully, not just the surface, but the woman beneath, radiant and real. There was no need for words. Her barefoot presence was enough, a silent story of trust and vulnerability turned into power. The room seemed to hold its breath as she moved closer, her bare feet grounding her and, somehow, grounding me too. I felt the pull of her confidence, the magnetic force that made the ordinary act of shedding socks feel like a bold statement. In that barefoot moment, she was entirely herself, free, strong, and beautiful. And I was grateful to witness it, to be part of this quiet unfolding. The night stretched ahead, full of promise, and her barefoot confidence was the spark lighting the way. As the evening deepened, a quiet ritual began to take shape between us, a dance of unspoken trust and gentle gestures. She settled beside me, slipping off her shoes with deliberate care, each movement slow and graceful. The removal of her socks was no longer just an act but a sacred routine, a symbol of letting go and opening up. The soft fabric peeled away, revealing skin warmed by the day's journey, vulnerable yet inviting. The ritual carried a rhythm, a cadence that echoed in the silence between us. It was a moment of transition, from the outside world into a shared sanctuary where only we existed. Her bare feet pressed lightly against the floor, and I watched as she flexed her toes, the simple freedom of the gesture strikingly intimate. The evening air seemed to still around us, charged with the gentle energy of closeness and anticipation. I reached out instinctively, offering my hands as a quiet invitation. She accepted, placing her foot in my palm, and the ritual deepened. The softness beneath my fingertips felt like a secret entrusted, a delicate bond forged in the calm of the night. The act became more than routine. It was an unspoken promise of presence and care. The quiet moments stretched, filled with the warmth of shared vulnerability and growing trust. In the gentle repetition of this evening ritual, I sensed the blossoming of something profound, a connection that would carry us forward through whatever lay ahead. As the night unfolded, a subtle shift occurred between us, an unspoken exchange of energy and control that neither of us had anticipated. She took the lead, her movements confident and assured, guiding my hands with a quiet authority that sent a thrill through me. The gentle pressure of her touch, the way she directed the pace, transformed the moment into a delicate dance of power and surrender. Her bare feet rested in my hands, and I felt the strength beneath their softness, a grounded presence that anchored me even as it stirred something restless inside. She was both the calm and the storm, the steady guide and the tantalizing mystery. I found myself willingly yielding, trusting her to navigate this uncharted territory. Her eyes locked onto mine, a spark of mischief and tenderness flickering within. The power she held was not domineering, but inviting, a shared command that deepened our connection. Each movement she directed became a language of trust, a promise that this moment was ours alone. I surrendered to the shift, feeling the weight of vulnerability and strength intertwined. It was a balance I had not expected, but welcomed, a fusion of hearts and wills in perfect harmony. In that quiet power exchange, the night took on a new dimension, rich with possibility and deepened intimacy. And as her guiding hands moved with purpose, I knew we were crossing a threshold, one that would forever change the way we connected. Time seemed to slow as the moments between us stretched, each breath drawn in carefully, held just long enough to savor the growing tension. The air was thick with anticipation, a delicate balance where desire and restraint intertwined like the dance of shadow and light. Her toes curled softly, the subtle motion sending a ripple through my skin that left me breathless. I found myself holding my own breath, caught in the fragile silence that enveloped us. The world outside faded away, leaving only the quiet intimacy of this shared space. Our eyes met once more, and in that gaze, I felt an unspoken acknowledgement, an understanding of the delicate line we were treading. The breath held between us was more than a pause. It was a moment of suspended possibility, charged with all the things we dared not yet say. I could feel the steady rise and fall of her chest, the warmth radiating from her skin, and the gentle pulse of life that connected us. Each inhale and exhale became a silent rhythm, a melody woven into the fabric of the night. The tension was electric, but it was also tender, a breath held in reverence for the connection blossoming between us. I knew that when we finally exhaled, the world would shift and something new would be born. For now, though, we stayed suspended, savoring the quiet power of a breath held, a moment shared, and a promise yet to be fulfilled. The stillness between us deepened as I felt a gentle surrender wash over her, a quiet letting go that spoke of trust and openness. It was in the way her body softened beneath my hands, the subtle relaxation of muscles that had held tight for too long. That silent yielding was an invitation, fragile yet profound. I moved slowly, reverently, honoring the vulnerability she offered. The world outside seemed distant and irrelevant, replaced by the sacred space we inhabited together. Every touch, every glance became a testament to the quiet surrender blossoming in the room. Her bare feet rested lightly in my palms, and I could sense the gentle ebb and flow of her breath, matching the rhythm of my own. It was a dance without words, an exchange of presence and acceptance that transcended explanation. That surrender wasn't weakness, but strength, the courage to be seen fully and held gently. I felt privileged to witness it, to be part of this moment where defenses fell away and something raw and beautiful took their place. The night wrapped around us like a warm embrace, and in that quiet surrender, I discovered a new kind of intimacy, one built on trust, patience, and the courage to let go. The soft glow of the room dimmed further as her eyes slowly closed, a gentle surrender that mirrored the quiet calm settling over us. In that moment, the world seemed to pause, time folding inward until only the space we shared remained. Her eyelashes brushed softly against her cheeks, and I felt the weight of everything unspoken rest between us. The rise and fall of her breath became a steady rhythm I found myself attuned to, a peaceful cadence that calmed the restless stirring within me. With her eyes closed, vulnerability shone brightest, an invitation to trust and to be trusted in return. I traced a tender path along the curve of her foot, careful to match the softness of her breathing. The connection deepened, wordless and profound, as if our souls spoke in the silence that stretched between each inhalation and exhalation. In that stillness, I sensed a fragile yet unbreakable bond forming, a quiet understanding that needed no words to be felt. The closing of her eyes was not an end, but a beginning, a passage into a shared space of intimacy and quiet strength. As she rested there, calm and open, I felt my own eyes close briefly, breathing in the fullness of the moment. The night wrapped us in its gentle embrace, and the world outside faded, leaving only the tender closeness we had found. Time seemed to hold its breath, the world outside fading until it was nothing but a distant hum. In the suspended quiet between us, every second stretched, heavy with meaning and possibility. The soft pulse of our shared breaths created a rhythm that bound us together in a fragile, unspoken promise. Her hand rested lightly in mine, a gentle anchor in the stillness. The warmth between our skin was a silent testament to the closeness growing beyond words. In that moment, the space around us became sacred, a place where vulnerability and trust intertwined seamlessly. We lingered there, suspended in the delicate balance of anticipation and surrender. The night held us gently, its quiet embrace allowing the weight of the world to fall away. There was no rush, no need for declarations, only the profound understanding that something beautiful was unfolding. The soft flicker of candlelight cast dancing shadows, painting our quiet connection in hues of gold and amber. In that suspended moment, every glance, every touch carried the weight of 1,000 unspoken feelings. And as the minutes slipped by, I realized that sometimes the most powerful moments are those held in quiet suspension, where two souls meet without haste, simply existing in shared space and time. As the night deepened, she slipped her socks back on slowly, each movement deliberate and unhurried. The soft fabric embraced her feet once more, a quiet closing of the evening's intimate ritual. Her gaze met mine one last time, lingering, warm, and full of unspoken promises. That final look held everything we hadn't said, the tension, the tenderness, the possibility of what might come next. It was a silent farewell to the night's closeness, but also a promise that this was far from over. In her eyes, I saw a spark of anticipation, a shared understanding that what we'd begun was only the beginning of something profound. The room seemed to hold its breath as she rose, the quiet grace of her bare moments now replaced with the soft certainty of returning to the world outside. Yet, even as she moved away, the connection between us remained, an invisible thread woven through the stillness. I sat there, watching her retreat with a heart full of longing and hope. The night had gifted us a rare glimpse into a world where trust and vulnerability danced together, where the simple act of removing socks became a doorway to something deeper. And as the door closed softly behind her, I knew I would carry that last glance with me, a flicker of light in the quiet darkness, a promise that the story was just beginning.